I used to think there was a direct correlation between time spent on something and output. For example, growing up, I was a wrestler. I never really took it seriously until my freshman season of high school. The coach recognized my talent, I was doing well in matches, and I was splitting time between varsity and JV, which was pretty good for a freshman. Our team was decent. And my overall record for that season was 14-3. Made a ton of improvement. Very happy with it. After that, all I wanted to do was wrestle. My team for high school had a night of week of wrestling and lifting. So I did that for a few weeks, and then I realized that it wasn't enough, not enough time on the mat. So I decided to join 2 more wrestling clubs by the end of the summer, and I ended up wrestling 5 nights a week for a long period of time. I assumed that because I was putting in so much hours on the mat that I would get a lot better, that I would dominate, because I was just simply outworking everyone, which I understand why I assumed that. So after a few months of doing those 5 days a week, I decided it was time to enter some tournaments to test how much I really gained, and I assumed that I would dominate in these competitions, that I had outworked them, I had put in the work, and I deserved to win. So I entered the tournaments. The first tournament, I got my ass kicked. I assumed, oh, well, I might have just gotten unlucky, maybe happened to be against some state placers or really good kids. It happens. Second tournament, got my ass kicked again. Third tournament, ass kicked again. Then ass kicked again and again. My overall record for this period was 5-15. Not very happy. I was very upset, especially being a 15, 16-year-old kid. I would be upset now too. And I understand. I felt like I had wasted time, that I put in so many hours of wrestling and I got nothing out of it. I wouldn't say I actually didn't improve at all. I would say I made a little bit of improvement, but nowhere near the amount I should have in that time period. And the thoughts flooded my head of like, put in so much hours for nothing. This isn't fair. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. And I understand how that would be upsetting for me as a kid, and I thought that I had to actually really look into those hours and see, yes, I was putting a lot of hours on the mat, but was I putting everything into those hours, which is a bigger question. So I did keep wrestling despite this, because I did love the sport, and unfortunately I would end up breaking my back a few weeks later and never be able to wrestle again. But that's a different story for a different time. But looking back into those hours, I wondered if I had put everything into it, and the answer was no. Was I drilling as hard as I could? Was I asking the instructors/coaches questions when I didn't understand a move? Was I drilling until I got it down, regardless? And definitely not. I wasn't doing that at all. So I consider that those hours were meaningful just because I put the hours in, but it wasn't. And I realized that I was just focusing on what was easy in those hours and just having fun more than really being hard on myself and pushing myself. So, for example, in wrestling, I was always a defensive wrestling. I was really good at sprawling and just defense, not at shooting. So shooting in wrestling is basically just like going on your opponent, usually with the legs, for a takedown. I was never good at that. In my freshman season with all those wins, I think I maybe did it like 3 times, 3 shots the whole year, and they were on like JV opponents. I didn't have the confidence to do it against great opponents because I didn't practice it. So instead of doing that, which I should have just been hammering down that, getting that done instead of just practicing defensive wrestling, obviously still touch up on it, but why would I be drilling that so hard if I'm already good at it? Well, because it's comfortable. And I realized that, yeah, I wasn't practicing shooting. I was just staying in my comfort zone and doing what I was already good at, and that was defense. And that type of thing made me put all these hours in where I wasn't really gaining anything. And I think a lot of people do this. They just practice what they're good at, and it gets them nowhere. I have a friend, we'll call him Jack, and he used to study for hours on end for each test, and he still got C's and D's. He came to me and told me about that, and he had the same type of excuses that I did, the same thoughts that I did for the wrestling story. He said, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe I'm just not smart. I just don't understand it. It's not my fault, inherently. And I asked if I could study with him. Not so I could learn from the straight D student or anything like that, but so I could see what he was doing wrong. And I noticed he wasn't studying for hours. He was really putting in the work on a timetable perspective. But I noticed he skipped 2 units of the material. And I was like, Jack, why did you skip those 2 units? He told me something along the lines of, oh, well, I just don't understand them, so I'm going to take the hit and practice the other stuff, try to do well in that. So Jack was doing exactly what I was doing in wrestling. He was only practicing what he was good at, staying in his comfort zone, which prevented him from getting better and just attacking what he was bad at. And that ultimately led to him doing bad. So why do people do this? It's easy to just say people are lazy naturally, but I don't think that's the biggest thing. Maybe that's an aspect of it, but I think the biggest thing is fear. Because it's scary stepping into the unknown, doing what you've never done before, knowing you could get hurt, you could fail, and it's just hard. It's hard to do what you've never done before. You don't have experience with it. And I think that keeps a lot of people, it definitely kept me, it's kept me in the past, from really leveling up your game, just leveling up in general in life, and living the life you want to live. People are so often just on autopilot, on cruise control, in their comfort zone, thinking because they're putting the time in, which they technically are putting the time in, kind of, that's just going to get them somewhere, and they don't see results. And it's because you're not doing the hard work and actually putting your time into something that you're not good at, that you're struggling with. You have to struggle. You know, growth isn't just some hourly minimum wage job where you work some hours, do jack shit if you want, and you still get paid the same no matter what. It's not like that. And that mindset kind of is what I had and prevented me from growth. Doing what you've never done before is hard, but it yields results. I think about, I'm learning guitar right now, and it's funny. I have hour-long sessions where I get much less progress than 20-minute sessions. And I find that to be the trend more often than not, actually. And I wonder, like, at first, how is this possible? But then I noticed that if I spend an hour of strumming easy songs that I already know, just because it sounds good, or I like to boost my ego, that doesn't really get you far. It doesn't really make me much progress. Versus when I spend 20 or just 15 minutes strumming, practicing hard chords that I'm struggling with, like the bar chord. That gets me much more progress than that hour. For me to think that it's not just a time commitment that's gonna make you better, gonna make you great and level up. It's doing what you're afraid to do, doing what's hard. And I think that takes me to my main point, which is that spending a lot of time, spending hours on what you're good at is far less efficient and productive. It doesn't really get you anywhere compared to spending a shorter amount of time on what you're struggling with. So it doesn't matter the time spent. You need to get that out, that hourly wage mindset, which kind of paralyzes your growth. I need to just take an objective look at yourself, whether it's a sport, whether it's your physique, your fitness. It could be literally anything, your business. Take an objective look. Be like, where is this good at? Look at the positives too, of course. All right, I'm good at marketing my business. I'm good at getting to the viewers, they get to see it. What am I bad at? Maybe I'm bad at the pitch is bad. People see it, but they don't want to buy it because the pitch is not advertised very well. Focus on what you're bad at. Don't just, oh, I'm good at this, let's just like touch a few things up and let's keep like practicing our marketing when our advertisement is terrible. Focus on your advertising. Focus on what you're bad at. Clean that up. It's going to be hard. It's going to be painful, but trust me, it will be worth it. And it'll bring everything even. And that's how you make true growth, as I've found in my life.